He is a doctor but doesn't have money to buy medicine for his own son. Dr. Rafael Montenegro adjusted the stethoscope around his neck with trembling hands, observing his reflection in the fogged-up mirror of the public hospital bathroom. At 42, he bore deep lines on his face that shouldn't exist on someone his age. Each crease was a scar left by life, each gray streak in his black hair a silent testimony to the battles lost against a system he had sworn to serve, but which abandoned him when he needed it most. His cell phone vibrated in his pocket. A message from his wife, Clara. Rafa, Miguel had another crisis during the night. The fever won't go down. I need to take him to the hospital today. Rafael closed his eyes and rested his forehead against the cold mirror. Miguel, his 7-year-old son, was born with a rare immune system condition that required expensive medication and constant care. The irony was as bitter as gall. He who saved lives every day could not save his own sons. 10 years ago, when he graduated from medical school, Rafael believed things would be different. He believed his calling would protect him, that the universe would be fair to those who dedicated their lives to caring for others. How wrong he was. The public health system paid miserable wages, 36-hour shifts became routine, and resources were always lacking for everything, especially for doctors who, paradoxically, kept everything running. Dr. Montenegro, you're late for rounds, said Nurse Anna, lightly knocking on the bathroom door. I'll be right there, he replied, swallowing the anguish rising in his throat like bitter bile. In the hallway, patients crowded onto broken plastic benches, some sleeping on makeshift stretchers on the floor. The air smelled of disinfectant, mixed with despair. Rafael passed by them, knowing each story. The elderly woman with diabetes rationing insulin, the construction worker with pneumonia who worked while sick because he couldn't afford to lose his job, the teenage mother with a malnourished baby in her arms. They all depended on him. They all trusted he would have the answers, the medicine, the cure. But how could he heal others when he couldn't heal his own son? Doctor, my husband is getting worse, said Mrs. Marlene, grabbing Rafael's white coat. He hasn't been able to breathe properly for 3 days. Rafael examined the 50-year-old man, a former metal worker retired due to disability, whose lungs were filled with fluid. He knew exactly what was needed, a specific diuretic that cost 300 reais per vial. The public hospital didn't have it, the family didn't have the money, and he, a doctor for 10 years, didn't have it either. We'll try with what we have here, Rafael said, prescribing a less effective generic drug, knowing it might not be enough, and keep him on absolute rest. Mrs. Marlene nodded, her eyes full of tears and trust that Rafael felt like a stab in the chest. The shift dragged on for 16 hours. 32 patients seen, 4 admissions, 2 discharges, 1 death that could have been avoided if there were adequate resources. When it finally ended, Rafael received his payment, 1,200 reais for a shift that left him physically and emotionally exhausted. On the way home, he stopped at the pharmacy. In his hand, he held the prescription he had written himself for Miguel. Human immunoglobulin, 400 milligrams, intravenous use. Price, 2,800 reais. Doctor, would you like to pay in installments? Asked the pharmacist, recognizing the dilemma in his eyes. How many installments? Maximum 6, but it comes to almost 500 reais each. Rafael did the math in his head. His monthly salary at the public hospital was 4,000 reais. Rent, 1,500. Food, electricity, water, transportation, another 1,500. That left 1,000 reais. For a family of 3, it was nothing. And now he needed 500 more to keep his son alive. Let me think about it, he said, putting the prescription back in his pocket. Clara was in the kitchen when Rafael got home. She was making chamomile tea, the automatic gestures of someone who had done it hundreds of times. On the living room sofa, Miguel slept under a blue blanket already frayed at the edges, his face pale and lips cracked from the persistent fever. How is he? Rafael asked, kissing his wife's forehead. The fever went down a little, but he vomited twice after lunch, and he has those purple spots on his arm again. Rafael knelt beside the sofa and examined his son with a father's care and a doctor's precision. The petechiae, small purple spots on the skin, showed that Miguel's immune system was failing again. Without the right medication, infections would become more frequent and severe. Did you get the medicine? Clara asked, though she already knew the answer from her husband's expression. It's almost 3,000 reais, Clara. 3,000. She sat down at the kitchen chair, elbows on the table, face in her hands. Rafael knew that gesture. It was the same one she made when they got Miguel's diagnosis, the same when they found out the health plan didn't cover the treatment, the same when they sold the car to pay for the first doses. What if we ask my mother for money? Clara suggested, her voice muffled by her hands. You know she doesn't have it, and she's already helped too much. Your brother then? João has been unemployed for 6 months. The silence in the kitchen was dense as fog. Miguel coughed on the sofa. a dry sound echoing through the peeling walls of the small apartment. Raphael looked around. The old fridge that made noise, the plastic table with a short leg that wobbled, the walls that needed painting for years. How had they gotten here? Remember when you graduated? Clara said, lifting her face to look at him. You said we'd have a good life, that you'd take care of us all. There was no accusation in her voice, just a deep melancholy that hurt more than any shout. I remember, Raphael replied. I remember everything. He remembered graduation day, when his parents, who worked their whole lives to pay for his college, cried with pride. He remembered his first job, the expectations, the dreams. He remembered when Clara got pregnant and they painted the little room blue, imagining a future full of possibilities for Miguel. It's not your fault, she said, reading his thoughts. You save people every day. You're a hero who can't save his own son. Clara stood and hugged him from behind, resting her head on his shoulder. They stayed like that for a few minutes, united in silence and shared pain. What if I go back to work? She suggested. I can get a part-time job while Miguel is at school. Who will stay with him when he's sick? You know you can't leave him alone. Your mother can help sometimes. Clara, my mother is 80 and has diabetes. I can't burden her. The discussion died before it began. Both knew there were no easy solutions. Raphael earned little. Clara couldn't work because Miguel needed constant care, and the bills kept piling up. Miguel woke up crying, one of the pain crises that struck when his immune system was out of balance. Raphael picked him up, feeling how thin, almost fragile he was. It hurts, Daddy, Miguel murmured, clutching his father's neck. I know, my love. Daddy will take care of you. But as he rocked his son, Raphael felt the crushing weight of impotence. He had sworn to protect that child, but was failing in the worst way possible. 3 days passed, and Miguel's condition worsened considerably. The fever was now constant. The purple spots spread across his arms and legs, and he could barely keep food down. Raphael knew they couldn't wait any longer. I need to take him to the hospital, he told Clara on Monday morning. To which hospital? The public one. It's all we can afford. Clara bit her lower lip, a habit when she was nervous. Both knew the public hospital was where Raphael worked, and although he knew all his colleagues and could guarantee the best care possible, basic resources were lacking. It was a cruel irony. The doctor everyone respected professionally would have to put his own son in the public health queue. At the hospital, Raphael carried Miguel into the pediatric emergency room. The nurses greeted him with surprise. They didn't expect to see him there as a father, only as a colleague. Dr. Montenegro, what happened? Asked Dr. Helena, a pediatrician who worked at the same hospital. It's my son, Helena. Miguel has primary immunodeficiency and is in crisis. Helena examined the boy with professional care, but Raphael saw the worry in her eyes. She knew the clinical picture, knew exactly what was needed. He needs to be admitted for intravenous immunoglobulin, she said in a low voice. You know we have to follow protocol. It'll take at least a week to get approval from the health department. A week? Raphael felt the world spin. Helena, look at him. He doesn't have a week. I know, Rafa, but you know the system better than anyone. The system, the damn system he defended every day, fought to keep running despite all the difficulties, was now the same one condemning his son. What if I buy the medication and bring it here? Raphael asked. You can do that, but it's almost 3,000 rays. Raphael looked at Miguel, who slept restlessly in his arms, then at Clara, who was holding back tears with all the strength she had left. I'll find a way, he said. That afternoon, after admitting Miguel, Raphael did something he never thought he would. He sought out loan sharks. He knew some from the hospital corridors, men who lent money at exorbitant interest to desperate staff. Dr. Montenegro, said Carlinos, a short, fat man who sold snacks at the hospital. Heard you need some help. I need 3,000 reais urgently. It's for my son. I can arrange it, but you know how it works, right? 30% interest per month. Raphael did the math quickly. 3,000 would become almost 4,000 in the first month, 5,000 in the second. It was a debt that could destroy his family, but Miguel was dying. I accept. Great, doctor. You're a good guy. Everyone likes you here, but business is business, right? If you're late, things get ugly. Raphael nodded, signing papers he didn't fully read. At that moment, only one thing mattered: saving Miguel. With the money in hand, he rushed to the pharmacy and bought the medication. He returned to the hospital as if carrying the elixir of life. Dr. Helena administered the immunoglobulin to Miguel, and they waited. 2 hours later, the fever began to drop. The purple spots stopped spreading. Miguel opened his eyes and asked for water. Daddy, he murmured. I'm here, my love. I feel better. Raphael kissed his son's forehead and cried for the first time in years. Tears of relief, gratitude, but also despair, because he knew this was just one battle won in a war far from over. 3 weeks later, Raphael was getting daily calls from Carlinhos demanding interest. The debt had grown to 4,000 reais, then 5,000. Raphael sold everything he could: his wedding ring, the laptop he used to study, even the medical books he'd kept since college. Miguel improved significantly after the treatment, but everyone knew it was temporary. The medication would need to be repeated every 3 months for the rest of his life, and Rafael had no idea how he would get the money for the next dose. "Doctor, you're 2 weeks late," said Carlinhos, cornering Rafael in the hospital corridor. "My bosses are getting nervous." "I know, Carlinhos. I just need a few more days." "There are no more days, doctor. You're a good guy, but 5,000 reais isn't a joke." That night, Rafael came home and found Clara crying in the kitchen, a letter in her hand. "What is it?" he asked. "Eviction. We're 3 months behind on rent." Rafael sat down and buried his head in his hands. He owed the loan shark, owed rent, owed on his credit card, and Miguel would need new medication in 2 months. "Clara, I need to tell you something." He told her about the loan, the interest, the threats. He saw his wife's face grow paler with every word. "Rafael, are you crazy? These people kill for much less. I had no choice. Miguel was dying. And now? What do we do now?" Before Rafael could answer, they heard footsteps in the hallway and a loud knock on the door. 3 men entered uninvited. Carlinhos and 2 others Rafael didn't know. "Doctor, meet my bosses," said Carlinhos. They came for the money. Miguel, who was playing on the living room floor, ran to his father's arms, frightened. "Please," Rafael said. "My family has nothing to do with this. Give me more time. I'll get the money." "Time's up, doctor," said the tallest man, with a scar on his face. 5,000 now, or we'll have to take other measures." Clara clutched Miguel to her chest, protecting him instinctively. "I work at the hospital. You know where to find me. You don't need to scare my family." "Doctor, you really seem like a good guy," said the scarred man. "I'll give you 1 more week. But if you don't show up with the money, we'll have to break something. And it won't be furniture, if you know what I mean." After they left, the Montenegro family sat in silence. Miguel didn't fully understand what was happening, but he felt his parents' fear. "Daddy, were those men bad?" he asked. "No, my love. Daddy just has some grown-up problems, but it'll be okay." A lie. Rafael knew nothing would be okay. He was trapped between the need to save his son and the impossibility of getting money honestly. That night, while Clara and Miguel slept, Rafael left home and walked the empty city streets. He passed by the hospital where he worked, the pharmacy where he bought the medication, the square where he played with Miguel on Sundays. He stopped in front of an old church and sat on the stone steps. He wasn't particularly religious, but at that moment he needed something greater than himself. "Why?" he asked the starry sky. "Why do I, who dedicate my life to saving people, can't save my own son? Why did I choose to be a doctor if I can't even care for my family?" The silence of the night was his only answer. The next morning, Rafael arrived at the hospital determined to find a solution. He sought out Dr. Augusto, the clinical director and his friend since residency. "Augusto, I need to talk to you. It's personal." In the office, Rafael told him everything. Miguel's illness, the lack of money, the loan from loan sharks, the threats. "Rafael, why didn't you come to me before?" said Dr. Augusto. "We've been friends for 15 years. "Shame. How do I explain that I'm a doctor but can't care for my own son?" "That's not shame, it's reality. Do you think you're the only doctor in Brazil struggling financially?" Dr. Augusto opened a drawer and took out a checkbook. "How much do you need?" "Augusto, I can't accept. I already owe 5,000 to those thugs." "You can and you will accept. We have to take care of each other. The system doesn't care for us, so we have to." Rafael received a check for 8,000 reais with tears in his eyes. It was enough to pay off the debt and still buy the next dose for Miguel. "How will I pay you back?" "When you can, and if you can't, it's fine. Consider it an investment in humanity. You save lives every day, Rafael. Someone needs to save yours too." That afternoon, Rafael paid off the loan sharks and bought a new dose of medication for Miguel. For the first time in months, he slept peacefully, but the peace didn't last. A week later, Miguel had a severe respiratory infection and needed to be hospitalized again. This time, besides immunoglobulin, he needed special antibiotics costing 1,000 reais per day. "Dr. Montenegro," said Dr. Helena, "his condition is complicated. He'll need to stay at least 10 days. 10,000 reais. Rafael felt the world collapse again. That night, in the hospital room where Miguel slept connected to tubes and monitors, Rafael made a decision that would change his life forever. Rafael was at his limit when he received an unexpected call. It was Dr. Mariana Vasconcelos, head of the immunology department at Hospital Israelita Albert Einstein, one of the country's most prestigious private hospitals. "Dr. Montenegro, I received your resume from Dr. Augusto. I'd like to talk to you about a position on our team." Rafael was speechless. A private hospital meant a much higher salary, full health coverage for his family, proper resources to work. "Doctor, it would be an honor to speak with you." The interview was scheduled for the next day. Rafael borrowed a tie from Dr. Augusto and got a haircut with his last few reais. In the bathroom mirror, he rehearsed what he'd say, trying to hide his desperation behind a professional mask. The Einstein Hospital was everything the public hospital wasn't: clean, modern, quiet, with state-of-the-art equipment. Rafael felt intimidated but also hopeful. Dr. Montenegro, said Dr. Mariana, an elegant woman in her 50s, your references are excellent. Dr. Augusto told me about your work in the public hospital. We know doctors like you are rare, dedicated, competent, humane. Thank you, doctor. I'll be direct. We're looking for a doctor to coordinate our new social medicine program. It would be part-time here at Einstein, part-time in public hospitals, bringing our technology and knowledge to those who need it most. Starting salary, 15,000 raise. Rafael felt his legs go weak. 15,000 raise was almost 4 times what he earned at the public hospital. And there's an important detail, Dr. Mariana continued. The hospital offers full medical coverage for employees and their families, including special medications for rare diseases. Rafael couldn't hold back his tears. Doctor, my son, he has primary immunodeficiency. He needs expensive medication I can't afford. I know, she said gently. Dr. Augusto told me, don't worry, your son will get all the treatment he needs. At that moment, Rafael felt as if 1,000 kilos had been lifted from his shoulders. For the first time in years, he saw hope for the future. When can I start? Tomorrow, if you'd like. 6 months later, the Montenegro family's life had completely changed. Rafael worked at Einstein 3 days a week and 2 days at the public hospital, bringing knowledge and resources between the two worlds. Miguel received top-notch treatment and hadn't had any serious crises since. Clara went back to studying nursing, fulfilling an old dream she'd abandoned when Miguel was born. The small apartment was replaced by a house with a yard, where Miguel could play without fear. But Rafael didn't forget where he came from. Every month he visited patients at the public hospital who were going through the same hardships he had. He created a support fund for doctors in financial difficulty and worked to improve working conditions in the public system. Daddy, Miguel said one afternoon as they played in the yard, you seem happier now. I am happier, my love. And you? Me too. I don't get sick anymore and Mommy doesn't cry anymore. Rafael hugged his son, remembering all the dark moments they'd been through. The pain had been real, the despair overwhelming, but it had also been the catalyst for a change that saved not just Miguel, but the whole family. That night, after putting Miguel to bed, Rafael and Clara sat on the sofa in their new living room. Do you remember that night in the old apartment's kitchen? Clara asked. When you said you couldn't save our son? I remember. You were wrong. You saved him, and you saved our family, and you keep saving people every day. Rafael looked out the window, seeing the stars that seemed brighter in this new phase of life. You know what I learned? He said. That sometimes we need to go through the darkest valley to find the highest mountain, and that medicine isn't just about healing bodies, but about healing hopes. 5 years later, Dr. Rafael Montenegro had become a national reference in social medicine. His program at Einstein was studied in universities across the country, and hundreds of families had benefited from the support fund he created. Miguel, now 12, grew up strong and healthy. He dreamed of being a doctor like his father, inspired by the story of overcoming he had lived. One morning, Rafael received a letter from a young newly graduated doctor. Dr. Montenegro, my name is Juan Silva, and I work at the public hospital in Fortaleza. I'm going through the same situation you did. My daughter is sick and I have no money for her treatment. I read your story online and wanted to ask if your support fund still works. I don't know what else to do. Rafael smiled, remembering himself years ago. He picked up the phone and called Juan. Dr. Juan, this is Rafael Montenegro. I got your letter. Don't worry, we'll take care of your daughter. And then we'll talk about a position here at Einstein. Because Rafael had learned the most important lesson of his career, that true medicine is not just about saving lives, but about saving dreams, hopes, and families, and that no one should go through the dark valley of despair alone. The wheel had turned. The doctor who once had no money to buy medicine for his own son now made sure other parents didn't go through the same anguish. And Miguel, watching his father work, learned that being a doctor means much more than curing diseases. It means healing the world, one family at a time.